Welcome to the Tarin It Up podcast. I'm your host, Tarin. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody out there. Welcome back. It is a Tearing It Up Thursday, and at this point, coming through your ears, we have officially made it through the first full month of 2025. So, hoping that it's all started out great for you. It's hard to kind of speak from the future because as we're recording, it's not quite that far into it yet. So it feels like I've still got time to make the most of this month. But again, future self is saying hopefully everyone had a great January and we can continue the momentum into the year. And today I am here with Jen of the Travel Yogi. Really excited to have this conversation because I think it will bring me back into a place that I kind of haven't been in a while, like talking about yoga, retreats, and that part of my life where I've had big dreams that I wouldn't say that I still have them, but they're a little bit shelved as I focused on other things. So I'm excited to dive into this and kind of re-inspire some dreams of tropical warm yoga places and things and adventures, and just hear about her story in starting the Travel Yogi, because it's a bit different than your typical idea when you think of like yoga retreats and whatnot. So
never shelve
Jen,
your travel dreams, Tara. Never
yeah,
shelve them.
I know. Shelving's probably not the best word. I'll think of it. But with all that being said, Jen, as we record today, where are you physically in the world?
I'm in Long Beach, California. So it's a little interesting today as most days, because I think most people know the fires that are going on here in LA. So we're safe from the fires. We're about 30 miles away, but it is snowing ash. So, and it has been for a couple days. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the fires down there are absolutely insane, and it's hard to believe that in January, a wildfire of this like size is happening, even though it is, Southern California. It's a lot warmer there. It's been known to be dry for a very, very long time, but still it's just not what you hear about often, that in the middle of winter, especially on the west, like a fire of this caliber is happening. I'm glad to hear that you're safe. That was my first thought when you said Long Beach. I'm like, oh my gosh, right, how far are you? And we're no stranger to wildfires here in Tahoe, but again, in the summer, I've experienced the falling of ash and just smoky days, but I can't believe again like it's happening in January there.
Yeah, it
Is
is
there
weird.
is there
It
any
is a weird time of
threat?
year to have it, but they said it's our driest year since 1961. So
Wow.
it's one of those weird, uh, perfect storm type situations.
Mm.
But also now, these once in a generation things are happening a lot more often, unfortunately. So LA is a big place, and we are pretty south in LA County. So, like I said, we're about 30 miles away, but we have a lot of teachers and friends up north. So, definitely on a daily basis checking in and sending them all the best. And so far, everyone's safe, and, everyone we know is still in their homes. So that's good.
That is great to hear. And again, just such a scary situation because, like you mentioned, all these once in a lifetime kind of disasters are happening in it. Not to bring everyone down out there, but it does make you wonder, wherever you are in the world, of like, what is it going to be that's going to happen here? Because it feels like no matter where you are, some kind of natural disaster is like looming with what's happening in the world and the climate. And again, that's a very downer kind of view, but like I said, it's hard for us to feel okay these days with just everything in the world. It just always feels like something's going to happen. And I really try hard to stay out of that mindset. But if you out there also have to try really hard to stay out of that mindset, just know that a lot of us are in that space and it's hard not to go that way. It's pretty natural to do it, but got to try to just just keep on keeping on and not wait for it to happen, but obviously always be as prepared as possible. But
Well, I guess on the flip side of that, it is a good motivator to get out and see the world and see things before maybe they change. And how you do it, to do it as responsibly as possible. And a lot of airlines are moving to different kinds of fuels, which is great. And, trying to figure out how you're going and a way to make the least amount of negative impact and the highest amount of positive impact, because we impact no matter what we do. We impact whenever we go somewhere. So the flip side of the coin that we've just been talking about is, yeah, get out there and see it. Just maybe take a little extra time planning and do it as lightly as possible.
yeah, that's a really good point, and I love the positive way that you were able to spin that, right? Like,
Positive
we don't
vibes.
have much time to waste in the grand scheme of life and how long we're on this planet. And so, like you mentioned too in the very beginning when I said, kind of shelved that dream of like, don't shelf it. And so it's like, okay, yeah, not quite, it's not shelved, right? It's just figuring out, still working out how I can get to doing that. Dream, pursuing
Here to
that part
help,
of that
Karen.
dream.
Here to help.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, with all that, tell us a bit about the Travel Yogi, like what it is today, and then we'll get into like kind of how it all came about.
Sure. Okay. So thanks for having us on too. And we're a yoga adventure company, not a yoga retreat company. So, lots of people run retreats, and there are companies out there that do retreats, and that's awesome. People want to go and really sink into a practice, do it, 3 times a day, and kind of just really focus on it. That's great, cool. It's not what we do. So I come from an adventure travel background and wanted to, just kind of elevate that experience a little bit, where people can go someplace, take their wellness with them, but then also experience all the things that a particular destination has to offer. So, if you want to go somewhere and experience, like if you're going to go to the Galapagos, you're probably only going to go once, probably, you know. And so if you're going to go down there, you do not want to miss out on all the nature and the beautiful, fauna and flora of the islands, but you don't want to leave your wellness either. So we have, kind of merged these two ideas into one and created an adventure travel company that focuses on wellness, as opposed to like a yoga retreat company that, will take you someplace and kind of focus on the yoga. We use the yoga as a springboard, a tool. For the travelers, yeah, you get to take that, your practice with you, and you get to, stay healthy and feel healthy. But from our side of things, we use it as a tool to also make sure that everyone has some grounding and some, familiarity in a foreign setting, so that they have a place to just kind of, exhale and breathe and feel a very habitual, normal thing that they have at home, so they can ground a little bit and walk out into the day that, that we have set up for everybody, the experiences, locals, nature, culture, whatever it may be, walk into it with a, big open heart and a big open head. Uh-oh, Tarin, I've totally lost you.
I was on mute.
There you are.
I don't know if you all have been able to like tell out there, but I'm battling another kind of like cold. The vicious cycle of coaching a high school team is just, there's always something going around. So January's really been tough for me so far, always something. But so I had myself on mute for my cough. So anyways, I was going to say, what I was saying was, I love the differentiation between like the retreat and adventures, because so often I think we just use the word retreat because that's just what comes to mind when you think about going somewhere else, and there's a focus like yoga, right? So maybe the focus is yoga, but it's around adventures as well. And yeah, the word again, it's like, oh, I'm going on a retreat, also is a little bit easier to say than like I'm going on a yoga adventure or something,
Adventure, yeah,
right?
it is.
um, but I love that differentiation where people can think about when they see it and come to the Travel Yogi website or whatnot, that like, yeah, it's different than your stereotypical like go just focus on practice, mindfulness, wellness, and I'm sure all that is a part of it. But that's one thing that appeals to me most is the also having the adventures, really getting to see your surroundings and be immersed in that as well, and having a few different areas of focus rather than just one. And so they all have their time and place for sure, but
Yeah,
I am more of the adventure style expedition type like experiences, I guess.
me
So
too. Obviously, me too. I mean, all of our teachers bring their own uniqueness to, each trip that they lead with us. So everyone has a vinyasa base and teaches vinyasa, but yeah, some teachers have, an extra interest in yin, or some have an extra interest in, meditation or breath work, and they absolutely bring that, special part of themselves. And we always, when you go to a class, you always hear the teachers talk about, okay, well, carry this out into the world with you, take it off your mat. Like, so what better chance do you have to actually try that? Because I mean, realistically, how many of us, we go to class and we try, but like then our world just hits us, right? Like your phone's ringing, you got to check the text messages you missed while you were in class. Maybe you got to go home and cook dinner for the family, whatever it may be. The world just, comes back on you when you leave a studio class or like an online class. You carved out time for yourself, double thumbs up. And but once you come back into the world, it's all around you. When we go out and we do our adventures, you get that piece, and you can think about my breath work, the mindfulness. You can bring in whatever special that teacher is bringing, or what you want to bring to your practice on the mat as well. But then you have every single opportunity to practice taking that off the mat, because you don't have to think about what's going on, because it's done for you. And we've planned it out for you, we've got it there. So you just get to like go with the flow and take. And having done, obviously I've had a practice for a really, really long time, and I've been doing this for a long time. So knowing the difference it's pretty dramatic when you actually get to go on, the trip, and you get to just go, oh, okay, now I'm gonna, breakfast is ready. Cool. Okay. Yay. Delicious. And listen, like I'm outside and the birds are singing and it's beautiful out here. And oh, okay, let me shower. We're going to go do this today. We're going to go do that today. And it's a totally different way to experience what it's like to take your yoga off the mat and take your mindfulness off the mat. And especially when you're, confronted with new cultures and new foods and new ways of doing things, it's a nice way to really practice your practice.
amazing. And again, just more good points of sometimes you don't think about it much when you're going to those studio classes or doing your online class, right? You've carved out that time and you can really be in it, and then you realize like you said, you turn that off right away to go finish your day and go about it, and how this type of trip can really let you enjoy that all in that headspace in a different way, and maybe even like help you hone that in at home where you don't have to switch gears so hard and fast every time, like kind of teaching like how can I keep some of this with me going throughout my day, instead of I am 100% guilty of going to studio classes and immediately like forgetting everything I just did for that
Yeah,
hour, like anything I connected with, and just hitting that switch completely off and on. And I mean, it's hard enough sometimes even going into a class to turn the switch, like to switch gears to get into the mindset in class and let yourself
for
even have
sure.
that time. I mean, by the time it gets to Shavasana, I'm going through my to-do list like, all right, how much time is it going to take me to get back to like home to do this, or do like get to work or whatever, and it's so hard to keep that off. But
It is.
the way that you've explained these, like the opportunities here, is just, I mean, how can you not want to do this if you have any kind of like adventurous spirit? You also mentioned that you came from the adventure kind of background, and that's where this evolved from. What were you doing before the travel yogi existed in that adventure world?
So I actually, it was supposed to be a lark. I put myself through school, I did an undergrad and a master's program while working as a travel agent. First, I was an agent, and then kind of moved into some different parts of the travel world. Worked for a travel magazine and things like that. So it was always a bedrock of kind of my what early mid 20s kind of range. And it was fun. I was single and free and I could do what I wanted to do. So I'm working as an agent, and hey, a fax comes over. Yes, there were faxes. A fax comes over to like, a $99 trip to, St. Lucia. That actually happened. And I was like, oh, okay, I can go to St. Lucia this weekend. So, it was taking advantage of all of the best parts of being a travel agent and having, these cheap and very easy things come across to explore the world. So I had the fortune to fall into that job in college, and it was a lot of fun. So I rode it through all the way through my master's, and then took time off. I started my family, so I got married and started a family. So we took some time off, and then I mean, this is gonna sound terrible, but it was not intentional to start a business like this. I was at home with my little one, and I'm married to a sailor, so he was gone quite a bit, merchant marine, and I just needed a way to engage with the grown up world a little bit each day, and mommy and me classes just kind of weren't doing it. So they're great and they're super fun, but they weren't getting the job done. And all my friends worked. It was before COVID. Everyone had 9 to 5s. They all go to work. That kind of thing. So it's not like anyone was really hanging around home. So I started this as a bit of a lark, just to give me some sort of connection with big people and with grown-ups, and conversations, whether it be phone or email or showing up in classes. I mean, I live in LA, so yeah, I would go to classes all the time when I could, and meet the teachers that we were talking to come over and do trips with us. And it just kind of took off. So it was supposed to be around until my daughter went to kindergarten, or maybe first grade, because we had half day kindergarten then, so maybe more the first grade situation. And she is graduating high school in June. So, we're waiting for our college acceptance letters at this point and sending her off into the world. So it took off, and it became a little beast of its own. So it's like my second child. But it
Wow.
wasn't. It was never intended to be this kind of big thing. But it, thankfully and gratefully, it resonated with people. So yay.
Wow. I love that story and how you are very open about the fact that it wasn't, you never intended it to be what it is today. It was something you needed at the time, you were looking for at the time. It was filling like a hole, a gap that you had, and then it just kept evolving from there. And I think that's a good reminder for us that you don't always have to have this very like lined out plan of it's going to go like start here and the ultimate goal is to be like this huge big thing or whatnot. It is absolutely okay to have an idea and just kind of act on it and see where it goes and not have the biggest expectations or intentions on something and let it unfold how it's going to unfold. Like, and I think that a lot of times there's pressure on us to have this grand big idea and have it all planned out and have the vision for it before we execute on it. There's so many things they're like, yeah, you know, you need this in line, and it's like, no, you can still take the leap and you can still absolutely do something without thinking it's going to be your livelihood. But again, there's so much pressure on us to have a backup plan or have this like whole idea set and not have room for just letting things happen. And I know different people like need different senses of security and whatnot, and that depends on you as a person. But don't let society, I feel like, make you feel that you have to have a certain outline of life before you're making any jumps or leaps. And if there's something out there that you want to kind of just do and see what happens, then do it. If you have the time and space to be able to, like,
For sure.
definitely take the leap.
It's funny looking back, at at my age now, and looking back, the Travel Yogi's 15 years old at this point, and going into its 16th year. And, I've been in the industry for a long time, but I did have other plans. Like, I did, I did do different things, assuming that my life would take different paths. And now looking back on the path it has taken, I'd say the most important thing I've learned, and it has definitely been probably unconsciously, but it has been the way things have always gone, is the the thing that I thought was important, like, it still matters to me. It's not like it disappeared. It still matters. It's there. But it was overridden by things that were more important. And so I followed that path. Like, my daughter became the most important thing to me. So it was really important that I find an opportunity to fulfill my need to engage with adults and to have some sort of feeling of purpose outside of being a mom, which I do think is like the most important and difficult job in the world. But, I needed to feel like I had something else too. So, okay, I started this, but I could have stopped it.
Mhm.
I could have stopped it when she went to first grade. I could have stopped it when she was in third grade or went to middle school or got into high school. I could have stopped it at any point. The difference is she became my most important thing, and this job allowed me to work from home, to work remotely, to you know work on a field trip so I could volunteer for the day with her, and I can be on my phone if something important comes in, that kind of thing. So it gave me a whole lot of flexibility, and it just showed me that, again, looking back, going with what was most important to my heart made me feel a lot more fulfilled and more important than what was important in my head. And now she's going off to college. I can go back to focusing, if I want to, on what's important in my head, because I've gotten her. I'm getting her up and out the door and a successful launch, and I'll be super happy. But it is interesting to look back at the path my life took, and realize that my heart really took me where I needed to go, and keeping this company alive allowed me a lot of things that I would not have had if I'd had a traditional job. And it allowed my family a lot of things too. My daughter is a very well-traveled little individual, because she would go with me on scouting trips, not on the trips, but when we would go and, like, scout them out and figure out what we want to do, I took her on a lot of these trips with me. So she's been to a lot of places around the world, and has a lot of, she gets to walk into her early adult life with just a very broad idea of people and culture and acceptance. And I'm super grateful for that. She doesn't get it yet. She will. And she has been growing into that sense of, oh, I am really lucky. I get to do these things, or I've been able to experience these things. And she'll just get that feeling more, and come to that understanding more as she gets older. But I mean, how cool of a gift to give her that I never would have thought of, beforehand, if I had followed the path that I had set up for myself. And I did set up a path. It was an A through Z,
Yeah.
kind of path. So I didn't anticipate a diversion. I didn't necessarily desire a diversion. And then it happened. And I'm so glad it did. And, there's just kind of a whole world of offshoots of benefits that happened, uh, because of the diversion, and I'm grateful.
That is so cool. And it's amazing that you were able to create a life where you could really like put those things that were most important, your daughter and family first, and build something around it. I think that is, a lot of our dreams is to be able to build the life we want, the life that works for us. And of course, that is not easy to do for everybody, or really not for anybody, because even if you have like a security cushion of like savings or something that has allowed you to go start a business, and it
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you're going to make it profitable, make it like your livelihood or anything like that. So, no matter what, it takes a lot of work. Our starting points may look very different, but it is not easy to continue that and to make it work. And it's amazing that you were able to do that and then give your daughter this experience of, like you've mentioned, she might not quite realize quite yet how lucky she is, but as she continues to get older and learn more about other people and their backgrounds, of like, wow, this is was really a unique way to grow up, because all we have is our perspective. So of
Yeah.
course, at a young age, like, she doesn't know of any different of how lucky she might be to travel the world, but being able to come back to that and realize it's something we've mentioned before here on the podcast, and I say a lot, like the ROI of parenting or coaching or anything is very long term. Like,
Yeah.
you just gotta sure hope that it does come back around, but it can take a while before they're learning these lessons. And it's, I mean, still things that I in my mid 30s am going through of like, oh wow, yeah, this is what people in my life were doing as a when I was a kid, and I didn't have the same sort of appreciation or acknowledgement for it. And duh, that's fine. Like, you can't always until you experience it yourself. But with you mentioning like this life you were able to give her of traveling at such a young age, when you were young growing up, like, were the outdoors and adventures like this accessible to you, or where did your kind of a love or involvement for adventure come from? Did it all just start from that travel agent job, or did it live in you beforehand?
No, I was lucky to be exposed to travel at an earlier age. So I was 11, uh, and I got to go on a trip to Europe. So, my older brother passed. He wanted to go somewhere else, and we couldn't go there. And, for some reason, my mom had tickets to Europe. I don't know or remember why, but he passed. And so it came to me, and I was like, sweet. So I went. And that actually started it off. Like, we basically spent the best part of the summer over there. And then when I was in high school, I took a study abroad, and I did a study abroad in Germany. And again, that just kind of cemented the this is cool idea of getting out of your bubble, and getting out of your town, and getting out of your familiar settings and your habits and your own routines, and trying something new. And thankfully I was young when I got to experience that, because I think if I hadn't experienced it and I was doing it now for the first time, it would be more daunting. We're just so open and I think flexible when we're younger. So
Mm-hmm.
it's nice, even if it's a drive up, for me being in California, a drive up the coast, or a drive to see a friend in Arizona. That's still traveling, and it's still going to teach you something. You're still going to learn, and we're all so different in this country. So, as much as I am a big believer in international travel, even going to, we went to the Southeast, we went to Georgia when my daughter was younger. And it was probably a bigger culture shock for me than it was for her. It's very, very different. And we've got friends over there. We were, hopping from their houses and hanging out. And I was just like, oh, thank goodness I'm with you guys in the evenings, because wow, I'm really disconnected over here. This is different. Um, but even a little bit younger, the adventure side, like I grew up in Tahoe. So talked about a little while ago, like I grew up on the west coast, or the west shore, sorry, of Tahoe, when I was little. And it was, not to date myself, but it was, the early 80s, and things were really different. And literally my mom would open the door in the morning and we would leave, and we would just go off. My older brother and I would just go off. We were like, 5 and 6, and we would just go play all day outside. We both had forts that we made. I had my fort, he had his fort. We went minnow fishing, with little strings and sticks and strings and stuff. Crawdad. I mean, we would do all this stuff outside, and all we had to do was be home for lunch and dinner. So, we were. It's so different now
Mm-hmm.
than it was. So part of me as an adult is like, what was my mother thinking? And the other side of it is, wow, that was really cool. And it's kind of sad we don't see kids just riding their bikes down the street, and,
Mm-hmm.
putting cones out on the street so they can, play a game of street hockey or something like that. Like, we did that when I was a kid, but I don't see it anymore. So, maybe I'm reflecting back and realizing that I was lucky to have that. Or, maybe I realized it was fun then, and just thought it was a really cool thing to do. I'm not entirely sure because I was young when we were doing that. Then we did move into a city and things changed a bit, but like I said, that's when we would then go to playing street hockey or you know playing basketball or something like that. So I would say that I've always been fairly independent, and that's part of just the age in which I grew up. But definitely traveling at a young age solidified my want and wish to see and do more. So while I say I fell into a travel agent job in college, I guess that's slightly disingenuous because obviously I searched it out and applied. It's not like
Right.
offered me the job. I had to apply. But yeah, I think that was of all the jobs that I wanted to have on campus, that was the one that I was like, oh, I gotta get this one. Like this has to be the one I get. Because I also knew what it would give me. I knew it would
Mhm.
give me a chance to do these, quick weekend trips or, hop over to London. Just, I don't know if I can say shits and giggles on your show, but
Yes, you
I'll say
can, absolutely.
but it was, so it was that kind of thing. I guess that always allowed me to stay really grounded in what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And I had educational goals, but also allowed that adventurous and kind of freedom loving side of me to go off and do what I wanted to do. So, if I had the choice and I was president, I'd make everyone travel.
Yeah.
I would really make everyone travel somewhere. Like, maybe it's just that drive up the coast, or maybe it's going 2 or 3 states away and just checking something out over there. Or maybe it is getting on a plane and going, far, far away, whatever it is, like just to experience something new, to experience different culture. And there's a gajillion and a half studies, and we all know it. We all know it. We all know that travel increases, empathy, and it's good for us. It's good for our emotional growth. It's good for our creativity. It's good for how we see the world and how we see other cultures, whether we're open or closed to them. There's too many studies to even begin to think about, starting to quote, so and so says this and this age, and it's boring anyway. That's just information. But we all know it's there, and I think we all have a desire. I mean, there's very few people I've met in my life who say they never ever want to travel anywhere.
Mhm.
Where we all want to go is totally unique and up to us, but the idea of wanting to go somewhere and wanting to experience the world is, you know it's pretty ubiquitous. So I just, I love it when someone emails us and says like, oh, I've never left the country and I'm thinking about doing this. Can you help? Or, I've only ever traveled with my family. So this will be my first, solo expedition where, I'm joining people I don't know. Like, what do I need to know? People write with these, really, personal, that's a personal question, like they don't know, we're not going to write them back like, oh, that's dumb, do this, whatever. It's like it's a personal thing. They're revealing some sort of, part of their insecurity about doing something. And it just, in for us, actually makes it that much more rewarding to then send them out into the world and then hear from them when they come back, reach out to them directly. How to go? What do you think? Or whatever the insecurity was before they left. Like, did it feel that way? Or, how was it when you actually got off the plane and met up with the group? Did you feel, or you tell us how you felt? So that's, that's like the reward side of the job is, people think it's, oh, it's a glamorous job and you get to travel all over the world and do stuff. Sometimes you just want to stay home. That does happen. But so it is a great reward, and I don't want to downplay it at all. It's fantastic. But the day to day rewards, the best part of sitting behind a desk and answering emails and phone calls and things all day that we do, which, anyone who does this can attest to the fact that it can get monotonous, is when we talk to people who have these wishes or fears or concerns, and then they go and come back and they're just, they're like on cloud nine, or they're talking about how now, okay, oh, I have to do this again every year. I have to find a way to do this every year. We have a lot of travelers that do. They have a specific time of year where they travel, and that is a personal reason to them. I know some of them have told us it's because that was when they got the divorce and it changed their life, or some of us told us that's when they got married and it changed their life, or that this is an anniversary of. And these are real things that I'm quoting. I'm not making them up. These are some of
Mm-hmm.
our travelers who say these things to us, that this is why they're doing this. And then just each year they do it, and they come back and they have these great stories, and they have these great memories, and they share them with us, and that's our reward. That it's the best.
Excuse me.
Cover your
That is
coughs.
all just everything you said about the kind of the whys and what people are saying of why they want to travel proves to me that like you have a true passion in what you're doing, because how you make people feel is what's so important to you.
That is, I mean, our whole team feels that way, which is really, really nice. It's not, it's not just me, it's everybody over here. That those are the fun ones when we get on our team calls. If someone emailed, Michaela privately, or they emailed me, or they emailed Kilty, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got the best email from so and so. Here, wait, let me read it to you. Or we've gotten cards. Like, some people have mailed cards, and then
Wow.
yeah, I know, it's just so sweet. I mean, it's like super old school, and being like ridiculously old school, I guess, at this point too. I'm
That's
so appreciative.
authentic. That
Oh,
is.
it's really fun. And honestly, sidebar, my daughter always asks if she can open them because she likes reading them too. And so many of them come in cursive, and she
Oh
can't
my
read.
god.
She always says, she goes, yeah, I can't read this.
That's hilarious. There's
I
a
was like,
bunch of
okay,
memes about cursive and how.
oh, we need to teach you how to read your joined up letters.
Yeah.
But
Oh my
yeah,
god.
the cursive ones are fun.
That's a
Um,
dying art for sure.
I saw, total side note, I saw a job post the other day for someone who could read cursive. They were looking for someone who could read cursive writing because they had a bunch of letters that they wanted to have put in a database and things. Like, I was like, you're kidding. Could you make me feel any older?
But yeah,
Are you kidding me? Come on.
might as well have an age and date stamp on there. If you were born between this date and this date, please apply.
I know, millennials and whatever comes after don't even know, need
Yeah.
not apply. Like, we're looking for Gen X and up.
So funny. Oh my gosh, that is a true testament, like I said, to the memes I've seen about it. Like, well, because I had to learn cursive. I was part of that still, but it didn't. It definitely died off like very quickly, and
Yeah, they don't
I was
teach it in
never
school
writing in
anymore.
it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because I don't know, because no one writes
I
at
mean,
all. I
obviously, my
guess
daughter
they're
never learned.
lucky they teach writing. I said, but
Yeah, right?
um,
Because everyone just types. Oh, you don't need to
yeah,
learn how to write. You don't need to have block letters. Just type.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Um, before you, so I love all the whole story of just the adventurous spirit. I mean, I do. There's a couple things I want to touch on about it with, because it kind of reminiscing on the days where you could just go outside and play, right? And like it's so different these days for so many different reasons, but I feel like we are lucky to come from generations that had a little more. I mean, I didn't live in the best area, so I didn't have that kind of same kind of freedom that you may have had in Tahoe as a young kid, but still, even then, it was a bit different than it is now. And I think because there was still just my parents wanted us to be outside, and we still
mhm.
went out and played in the dirt, and like put together fishing rods, tried to jump out of trees with umbrellas, like fun kind of
That's
childhood
a good one.
stuff. Yeah.
We did the
And
sheet. We held the
yep,
sheet. Yeah.
totally. I mean, I tried multiple things, but paper bags, plastic bags, but I just, and maybe because I don't have young kids, I'm a little more removed from what they're doing, but it just feels different. But I do feel like that kind of childhood and being allowed to be adventurous and get dirty can stay so rooted in you as an adult, and that something like the Travel Yogi can, even though it's obviously more structured, can kind of help maybe bring that spirit back out of people, or for people who maybe never had it. They still may have been more of a latchkey type kid growing up, even if they were growing up in the same like times that we were, or had to grow up fast, had different kind of parenting, and
Mhm.
didn't weren't able to actually have a childhood. There's a lot of that too, where it's like,
Yeah.
rather than, like you said, the kind of typical retreat you might think of with yoga, that allowing some more time and room for adventure can bring that spirit out in you, whether you've experienced it or not. And I think that we all need to be able to touch base with that part in us, as adults, because it can get buried deep in with life. And this podcast, I feel like, is pretty timely, because a couple weeks ago, when just Amber and I were chatting, we were talking about 2025 goals, and one of hers had traveling in it. And so we talked about that, and how I also want to add that as one of my goals, to travel more, and not big, audacious goals of traveling internationally for weeks on end like I used to have when I was in my 20s, but even just that quick kind of commute that a lot of people think of, like a staycation. One of my best
Mhm.
friends just moved to Santa Cruz. Like, I can do a one night trip even over there to see her, a weekend, something short, but I need to all I've been doing the last handful of years is going from Tahoe to Tacoma, Washington, to visit family. And I always feel like it's because I don't have, the time or finances to go anywhere fun. And if I have this guilt that if I'm going to take the time off work and go somewhere, it should be home to see my family, and I should spend any time I have available with, like, my nieces, or my niece and nephews. But I also am like, no, I need some me time, some fun
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I mean, I know we all, I'm sure, have this guilt, and it comes to, like, yeah, can I take the time off work? Can I afford to do this? But we really have to prioritize ourselves as much as we can as well. And I mean, my family understands too. It's not like they're gonna, oh, you're deciding to go to Mexico instead of come here when you have time off. How dare you? So it's interesting that we put this, our own guilt, and make up these stories in our head about things. But I definitely want to try hard to, yeah, just, and starting slow with a couple days away, like just 3-4 hours away, because I am getting this crazy itch of, like, I gotta go again. I need to be somewhere else. I need to travel. And because it doesn't always have to be like all or nothing, this big, huge, extravagant kind of trip. It can be little. It could be a freaking
Yeah.
night out somewhere, like, in a different town. I could go to
Yeah.
Tahoe City and be like, woo! Like, I love
Having a new
trucking.
phase.
Yeah.
It's
But
definitely like I always hate to hear, like that finances are the reason people don't travel.
mhm,
That always kind of bums me out. And I'm going to separate myself just a little bit from the company now, because we do run, you know, higher end, like we do things in a certain way. There's lots of different ways to travel. And if like one of our trips is out of the range, it doesn't mean you can't travel.
right.
It just means that, yeah, you do it differently, or you shift your idea. Instead of, I'm going to France this year and I've never been out of the country. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to DC this year, or I'm going to go to
Yeah.
New York this year, and you're going to try something different. There's always a way to do something. And, without you brought up some interesting points when you're younger and things, without going too crazy into it. Like, I had an interesting childhood, and I did kind of need to grow up fast. We had a funky relationship with mom and dad. And, when it was mostly just my mom, and then, we were welfare kids for a long time. So when we left Tahoe and we were in Sacramento, we were in, we were on food stamps, and, we were a welfare family. And that was just the way it was. And then dad would come in, and all of a sudden there'd be largies everywhere. And then, oh, okay, now he's gone again. So now, now we're back on. So it was that, kind of deadbeat dad situation, up and down finances. But there was always, um, and maybe that's why I took this job or applied for this job as an agent, because yeah, I would, I'd sometimes I wouldn't pay a thing, and I'd get to
Mhm.
go somewhere because I'm an agent, and because they want me to be able to speak authoritatively about things, to sell things to other people. So it was a job that facilitated, me being able to pay for school, because I had to pay for my own school, pay for my own apartment, take care of all the stuff that you have to learn to take care of in your 20s and, early 20s. and live on your own, but still do the thing that I really wanted to do. So, no, I went all over and it didn't cost me an arm and a leg because of the job I had. But I also
Hmm.
made that choice to take that job, to apply for that job instead of, any other million other things that, you know, would have paid the bills just fine and or, led me into a different place in my life. This is where I wanted, to go. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be free to do that. So it seems like, you know, finances are always a huge deal, whether it's just you or it's you and a partner and you're trying to figure out, each other's idea of security and what we need and how you spend and how you save and things like that. Yeah, I've lived in LA a better part of my life, and I know so little. I realized about the city during COVID. I realized when we were locked down, I was like, oh, I want to, oh, we can't. Oh, what if we did? Oh, we can't. Okay. Like, okay, here's my list now. I'm going to make a list of all the things that I wanted to do just in LA. Like, I'd never walked to the Hollywood sign. Now I have, like, hiked to the Hollywood sign. I have, going to the Getty, going to the Angels Flight, going to the really cool food market we have in downtown LA, you know, all these really cool things that I had never done, even though I lived here. I just took it for granted. Oh, I'll do it later, or someday I'll get around to it, or whatever. Going to the Arm and Hammer Museum, the La Brea Tar Pits, never done any of it. So now it feels like, when I do these things, and I have been checking off the list since, since COVID opened up and things like that going down, and getting these things done, and they feel so good, partially because I get my jollies by ticking off lists. I'm really,
Yeah.
but also because it's one of these things, like, I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to get pet sitters and worry about my daughter's school and is my husband home or not. Like, I got away for the day and it was so much fun. It cost me gas and maybe lunch if that's what we did when we were out, and it was really cool. So you don't have to necessarily put everything on hold just because your ultimate goal is to see the Arctic. That's a really expensive trip, and you're going to probably
Hmm.
be saving up for a long, long, long time for that. But it doesn't mean you can't do something else that brings you a sense of awe or wonder, and you don't have to go far to do it. If it's something you want to do, you can get in the car, or you can you know go with a friend and do something really, really cool nearby you, or take a really short little hop on the weekend and do something cool. Don't wait. Don't wait. Life's too short.
It is. And I think Um, I also, so growing up in Tacoma, Washington, so in the Seattle area, there's plenty of things around there that I didn't ever do. Like, I never went to the top of the Space Needle, and just these little
Yeah,
things
that's a
where
good
it's
one.
like, yeah, just think about where you're at, and if there's any little thing that you haven't done in your area, that's a great stepping stone to kind of do it. And like, I love that, like, kind of it gets your jollies off, ticking something off the box where,
Yeah.
like, create a list of from the littlest things to the biggest things that you want to do. And that could be, in the 5 mile radius of where you live, an overnight trip, couple day trip, working up to that big, long, extended trip and figuring out how you can maybe make that happen one day. And again, there's so many life situations where it might not be in the cards for a while. Like you said, if it's especially an expensive trip, but also kind of researching how you can do it. Because we have to remember, obviously, it's super easy to look at trips like the Travel Yogi and be like, oh, that's amazing. I want to do it. And then you look at the cost and you're like, oh, I can never, ever go. But you have to remember what everything that like companies like yours are giving you, like there's
Mhm.
so many things included in that cost. So, yeah, if you're going to go bare bones to, Iceland or something, like, well, now you have to also think about everything you'd get in these kind of curated trips and how much that would cost. So just kind of figuring out what you want to do, what your overall goal in this travel experience is. And maybe you do start off by just going somewhere and checking out a new country and doing it very limited. And then later on, you do a full on experience because I've never actually done a retreat or adventure like this. I was like you, where everything that I'd been able to do, outside of like work or school or being where I lived. I did it because I had a job. I went to Alaska because I
Mhm.
got jobs there. I went to Nicaragua because I got a job there. I went to Hawaii because I was doing a yoga teacher training that I saved up for. And actually, thankfully, they made a major mistake in telling me how much it would cost and they honored what they told me. Otherwise, I never
Good
would
for
have been able,
them. Yeah.
yeah, I never would have been able to do it. But a week before I was supposed to leave, and they told me it was this much with the housing. And I was like, that's not what you said. I've been saving all summer for this. And this is my plan to leave Alaska and go there. And yeah, So, anyways, like, there's only been a couple times, a handful of times that I've traveled that were like for fun and for true vacation, like outside of the country. Everything else, I got to Tahoe because I was working. I didn't just come to Tahoe to check it out. Like, I took a job nearby and then found a job here and then moved here. So I never
But
was just kind of free
even
floating.
those job sorry to say, even those
Oh
job
yeah, go
travels
ahead.
where you weren't doing it like, for quote unquote fun. One, it was a means to an end, and you had then a built-in network when you got there of people you were working with,
Mhm.
and you had fun,
Yeah.
so maybe you look at it a little bit differently, but you had a goal, you had a means to an end, and it got you where you needed to go.
Mhm.
And I also said I wasn't going to quote any studies, and I really won't quote it because I can't remember exactly where the study came from, but I did read a study that talked about, specifically with the gratification effect of travel and
Mhm.
making sure you get what you want out of it, and what you need. It was, okay, if you have limited resources, do you stretch them out and go, like you said, okay, Iceland bare bones. You want to go to Iceland for 2 weeks and bare bone it, and get that extra time, and be able to maybe see a few extra things because you're sleeping in your car at night, and you're not splurging on meals out because Iceland's an expensive country. But or do you make it 1 week and go, you know, in a different way where you're staying in hotels, maybe local places, you're going out to eat, you're not worried about strolling out in Reykjavik and buying that $9 cup of coffee because that's what it costs. So, you can do it because you took, instead of 2 weeks bare bones, you're doing 1 week, comfortably. And they said the 1 week comfortably far outstrips the 2 weeks bare bones, because ultimately when you get there, you're going, oh, I can't do that because it's too expensive. But oh shoot, okay, like no, 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 and I can't buy that because, and that thought process, it's a constant negativity in your mind of what you can't do because you're
Mhm.
on a budget, and you're on a very, very tight budget because you're stretching yourself as thin as you can to elongate the time you have in the country, which sounds like a good idea to stay as long as you can to really enjoy it. But if you can't engage, if you can't stay maybe in a local little place that's run by this, cute little Icelandic married couple that have been doing it for, 40 years and have all kinds of stories. And if you can't, pop into the coffee shop, which are actually a really important part of, the day to day in Iceland, and they do not open at 5 a.m. like Starbucks. Do not go out and get coffee in the morning. They don't leave their house in the morning to get coffee. They think we're crazy. Like they, do all that at home, and their coffee break is like, midday. So then things become really busy midday. And there's a lot of, fun stuff going on in these coffee houses around midday when people all take their break from work and they go out and they, sit in these coffee shops doing these kinds of things where you learn these things and you hear these things, and, you break into a conversation with locals and stuff because you're there enjoying the same experience. Make that experience, even though it's only just that week, so much more rewarding than that 2 weeks of isolation and bare bones. And, I'm just going to see the country and leave. But that's great. You saw the waterfalls, and that's great. You saw the mountains, and you saw, the volcanoes and things. But what did you really
Mhm.
experience? You've got to be able to meet the people and talk to the locals, and feel that you got a little bit under the skin of a place to really kind of have it sit under your skin for the long term. So
Absolutely. Like, taking that layer of just kind of anxiety off, and like I said, it may be a shorter amount of time, but it's going to be that quality experience rather than the quantity of days where you're just stressing the whole time about, can I do this? Can I do that? And where am I going to stay tonight? And I've done plenty of that, driving around, sleeping in my truck, where I would
Me
just
too.
drive so long till I had to pull over and sleep because I was just like, ah, like, and so now just being older, it's like, yeah, I am so grateful for all the experiences I had and where I got, like, the retreats and things I worked with and the places I've got to go because of that. But it has made it much more of a goal for me to go enjoy these things in a different way, in this way where I can put the money down to not be worried about where I'm staying. I mean, I still, because of this frugal mindset I had and kind of just like, just do it as minimally as possible when I was younger, that
Mhm.
my boyfriend has told me like I'm not allowed to book my own hotels because I will like go for the cheapest one, and been in situations where I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't be here. Like I am maybe gonna like, gotta make sure everyone knows my location. Like
Yeah.
just sketchy places. And he's like, no, I'm booking your hotels from now on because I just get the
Good book.
frugal mindset in. And it's like, no, it's gonna be way more worth it to just feel safe, feel comfortable, and be able to enjoy the time you have. And granted, these situations for me have been like for work weekend trips or something like that. But again, like it is definitely a goal of mine to be able to travel to places for the fun, to be able to enjoy it and truly immerse myself in it instead of be on the work side. But one of the reasons I mean, I was teaching yoga in Nicaragua, and that's where the dream of setting up retreats for me came from, sitting on the Palapala, looking over the ocean, like teaching classes. Like, this is amazing. Now I want to be able to give people this experience. And so I'm still so often putting myself in the position of working these things or setting them up because I want to give it to others, but I'm not allowing myself the time to give it to myself. So again, just a huge goal for me, not even just for 2025, but like in life, is to carve out that time where I can experience the stuff myself and not just always giving it to someone else, which I really want to do as well. But like, I need to be able to experience it on the, like, quote unquote client side as well. Um,
Well, you can merge both. I'll meet you halfway. You can you can come teach with us, and then you're working and giving, but you're also getting to do and experience and have fun.
Yes. Well, so
You can
that
do
brings
it.
me to a great a thing I wanted to bring up. I started counting, so I was looking on your website, looking at your teachers, and I started trying to count them, and it kept going and going, and I was like, "Oh my god, like how many teachers do you have under the Travel Yogi, and can you tell us a little bit about how that works, how you involve people into, like, how you find people to teach at certain retreats and that kind of process?"
Yeah, it's hard to say how many at this point because we have teachers on the website, and then we have teachers in studios that teach things privately, so they're not on the
Okay.
website. So like, ugh, I kind of I kind of don't know right now. We have a lot. It's a lot.
I'll tell you, I
Um,
counted more than like 75 on just listed on the website. So if that tells you
but
all something out
everybody
there,
goes
like,
everybody goes through their cycles too of like, okay, this teacher's teaches with us, and now she's pregnant, so look, she's going to take time off, and so she's still on the site, and we still love her and want to work with her, and when she's ready, and that's different for everybody. Maybe she's ready when you know the little one's here and she's like, okay, yay, I'm back into life. And maybe she's ready when the kiddo is 5. I don't know, but everybody goes through, their different cycles. So it's not like everybody who's on the site teaches, like a trip every year.
mhm.
Uh, and then we've got teachers that do 3 or 4 a year, because they're just like, get me out there. Yeah, I'm going. And they do, and which is great. In the beginning, yes, we went out and talked to teachers, and like I said, I'm fortunate enough to kind of live in yoga mecca. There's
Mhm.
just so many people here, so we had a lot of people that we could talk to and approach, and take the classes and be like, oh, that was a great class, this is perfect style, yes, let's talk to this person. As things have grown over the years, now we have an application. We have to go through a process because we can't possibly, practice with every single teacher. Fortunately, now so many people have classes online, so we actually can, practice with quite a few, but some don't, and they're farther away. I can't get to Atlanta and Chicago and you know Kansas City and things like that all the time to take the classes. So we have a process, like a vetting process. It starts with our application that's on our website. And then we go through steps, you know, interviews and questions and steps from there that we talk to people about. And part of it also is making sure that they understand what we do,
Mhm.
because it is a different concept. It isn't, we're not a retreat company, so we have to make sure that the teachers who are signing up and wanting to sign up with us and travel with us understand that, you know they're not expected to be experts by any stretch of the imagination with the places that we go. We have locals for that. We always have locals for that. But they're not just teachers either. So, you have to be prepared to go out into the world and hold space, not just during class, but when you're with the group. Maybe someone feels more comfortable coming to you because they've been your student for, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they do to this new guide who they've just met, who, they're not entirely sure. They just feel bad. Like, oh, my pillow's lumpy. Can I get a different one? They just feel bad. They don't want to,
Yeah.
they want to inconvenience someone else. So they'll come to the teacher. And it's like, yeah, you can facilitate that. Just talk to the guide or talk to our team. Like, there's a million, we have so many helpful hands behind the scenes. But it's that point of, yeah, you are holding space throughout the week, and you are going on the excursions with everyone. You are meeting everyone. You are, you know, trying the food and sitting down at the meals. You are getting your hands in on the cooking class, or, playing in the dirt. We do play in the dirt in Colombia, playing in the dirt, or you're going
Love
hiking
it.
or things like that. So, there is that idea that it's not a retreat where you're going and you're teaching and then you're kind of, clocked off until the next class. And maybe you see someone by the pool, or maybe you see someone at the beach. It's not what we do.
Mhm.
So, a good portion of going through the interview process is also making sure that we have not only the right style and teachers, but the right adventurous spirit and that fire to go out into the world and see and experience and taste and touch and smell, and you just imbibe all the good things that these different locations all have to offer with the group all the time. So, it's not for everyone, and not
Mhm.
everyone can do it. And the teachers we have, we love, 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 love. They're amazing, and they understand, and they have proven year over year over year as they travel with us that, there's no problem that's insurmountable if you listen and you just, calm down and you find the space to meet someone where they are. And there's no limit. The joy is boundless when you allow it to be. And that's what they not only facilitate on the mat and with the groups, but get to experience themselves. And it's really fun to watch and hear from our teachers too, because they have a same but different take than the travelers do when they come back. So there's always this points of similarity, and then there's the points of difference. And actually, another a different a different podcast wanted to talk with us about something different about the transformation that you see, that people see when, they teach. The teachers go and then they watch the travelers over the course of the week. What happens to them? And I'm like, okay, that's not me. You don't want to talk to me about that. You want to talk to Kilty about that, because I'm actually not a teacher. Like, I'm a long-term
Oh,
practitioner.
okay.
I don't want to be a teacher. Like, that is
Yeah.
that is my zen spot. That is my chill out spot. That is my turn off my brain spot when I get on my mat. And my personality type, if I became a teacher, I would be analyzing every move, every pose. Oh, this is where we're going. Okay, in 30 minutes, we're going to be doing this pose. We're warming up for that. I don't want that. So I never did a teacher training so that I can just enjoy my time on the mat as my like fun time and my quiet time. But Kilty is a teacher with us, and she was a teacher with us for many, many years before she joined the back end team. And she has all these great stories. The teachers have all these great stories of watching people throughout the week, the folks that come in one way and leave in another. And it's not necessarily a negative to positive. Sometimes it's a positive to an extra positive. It just depends. But their stories are are always unique, and are also a really rewarding part of the job, as you listen to what the travelers have to say, and then you listen to the teachers back end things about how they saw what happened with the travelers. And so it's really, really fun. And it's a part of that kind of secret sauce that when we talk to teachers, there is a part of tapping teachers that is just going with your gut. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
this person has said the right things, but more importantly, they sound the right way. They have that fire, they have that energy, they have that excitement in their voice. So yeah, let's give it a try. Let's see how it goes, you know? And so there is a little bit of guesswork, there is a little bit of gut feeling to it, but um, we've been really lucky, and we've got some wonderful, wonderful teachers, and we've got teachers that have been with us for over a decade now, which is
Wow.
really, really cool. Yeah, fun
Well,
and cool.
that right there, plus like I said, the amount of teachers that you've had like work with you through either in studio or traveling, like is a testament to like what you're doing. Like that obviously so many people can connect with what you're providing out there. And I love that you did mention that you are not a teacher, because I wanted to ask you, like, did you get certified and start teaching when you started this, or how did that aspect come about? So I think that's just a really good point to make that, look, you weren't a teacher yourself, that wasn't what your interest was, and you still started a company like this. So you don't always have to be the go-to 100% expert in something to be able to provide a service or whatnot to other people. And I think again we get a lot of pressure on, like, well, like imposter syndrome, like, well, you don't know what you're doing because you haven't done this for so long, or you're not the go-to expert. It's like, no, but I'm connecting people with the experts.
Yeah,
That's what like my role is here. But so often we can feel like we don't belong in certain spaces because we are not ourselves the expert. And I know again firsthand, like I have those experiences within myself all the time of like, well, there's people out there better than me at this, so why am I the one to do it? It's like, because you can be that middle person, you can be the one to bring it to the people, the moderator, or whatever you want to call it. So I love
I
that
think we also
you
have to.
mentioned that.
Sorry, I think we also have to be comfortable and and secure enough in what we do know in inside in ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Like, no, I'm not a teacher, and I never, never, never want to be, so that I have that space. But I had a practice for, I want to say it was almost 8 years before I started it, before I started the company. So I had the foundation, and because I had this foundation, I never felt like I was like sneaking, like cutting a corner, or sneaking through the door with credentials, because I was like, you know what, I don't need to be a teacher to know what a teacher does, because I've enjoyed these classes, and I've enjoyed so many different teachers and what they bring, and what they contribute to my individual practice over the years. And I love hopping around and trying different teachers. I love the teachers I love, but I always love
Mhm.
trying something new too. So it's
Same.
like, no, I don't think, if anyone ever came to me and they were like, oh, well, how could you possibly, judge a teacher because you're not a teacher? It was like, you know, no, I don't feel I need to be. And part of the way is, I think, being an authentic practitioner, just someone who loves the practice and knows, you try different modalities, you know what fits with you, and you know what doesn't fit with you. To me, felt even a little bit more authentic, because I'm coming from a place of a true practitioner, not a teacher practitioner. So I'm not bringing that side of things into it. And sure, someone might feel they have a valid point to say, no, you got to be a teacher to do it. But I feel really strongly that I don't. So, it's okay to disagree. It's like, that's fine if we disagree on it. But ultimately, where I'm coming from is a place of like foundational security
Mhm.
in what I feel I know, and how we build it into the trips, and where we want it to be and where we don't want it to be, um, because of the practice rather than having the teacher side of things. So, we always listen to feedback, and we do tweak things, based on feedback that comes back, because we will always want to make things as perfect's the wrong word for
Just
travel.
better. Just
Better,
better.
yeah. You always want
Always
just as
better.
best they can be. You always,
Yeah.
isn't that what we're all doing all the time? Like, we
Every
should all
day.
be feedback on everything to be better. We can always all be better. So,
Absolutely.
I would give someone their full credit to think you need to be, and I'm not sure I want to listen to you, because that's totally fine. That's fine. And if you don't want to listen to me about it, that's cool. I'll connect you with the teacher. You want to talk to the teacher on this particular trip you're looking for, or do you want to talk to teachers who have been with us for a while if you're not sure what you want to do but you want a teacher's perspective? Totally fine. I really just think it's about feeling really genuine in what you know, and being honest about what you know and what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super upfront
Absolutely.
with people, and I'm not a teacher, because I don't want anyone to think, you know, that I am. It changes the way they hear what I say, just like knowing I'm not changes it, but it changes it to the more honest side of things. So yeah, not a teacher, guys.
Well, I don't see how it could, in what you're doing with the travel yogi, affect anyone. It's not like you're the one, like you're teaching the courses or the classes and then saying
Nope.
like, I'm not certified or whatever. But also, just to that point, is what they say is like, it takes what 10,000 hours to truly become an expert or master something. So whether you've gone through a teacher training or not, I'm sure you've got 10,000 hours of practicing under your belt by now. So if we
Wow,
look at
that's a lot
that
of
side of
hours.
things, it's like you you know what you're doing. And also when you're vetting people who are coming to your company, and you're doing it from the side of like that student side, and that's a very important way. I think that a lot of times in any jobs, when you're applying for something and it's the people above you who are hiring you, right, instead of like a peer, like how would it be to work with this person or be on the same team or something. We're never in that situation. So I think it brings a great perspective that you are looking at it from that kind of view as well, and how people would perceive the teachers and whatnot, instead of just like feeling that you're above them or something, or on that same level and playing, like you're relating to the people who they will be talking to. And I think that's a really important perspective to have and to be on when you're vetting new teachers and whatnot. But like I said,
Yeah.
just the
And
amount
yoga
of
is the
people that you.
foundational piece.
Oh, go ahead.
So I was gonna say yoga is the foundational piece that we all have in common.
Hmm.
It's the travel piece that's going to be foreign and unknown and different for everyone. So it's part of what we do is we go and we test these things out and we travel through them, and we experience it before we put them up, so that we have not only all of the expertise that we've built up over the years just doing this as long as we've been doing it, but then the local side of things too, so that we can tweak and cut right then and there. Oh, this is great, but it's too much for this day, and we want to be able to build in this, or we can move it here, or people can experience this in a different way if we do this. So that to me is where it's more important that we're kind of showing our street cred,
Yeah.
because we all come with that yoga familiarity and that yoga piece as the piece we have in common, the want to travel and the yoga. Those are the two commonalities that people have when they come on the trips. But just about everything else is going to be new or foreign, even if they've been to some of the countries we go to before. If you've been to France a million times, I promise you've never done some of the like super local things we're doing.
So cool.
In the Provence area. So there's always going to be something new, even if you've been before. There's always going to be that piece. So yeah, that's where we kind of felt like it's more important to shine on the expertise. Not that we slack off on our yoga at all. We all practice yoga, and we all had a practice coming into this, and we all continue our practice throughout the days that we do this. But it's this side of things. It's that unknown side of things for people that we're like, nope, we gotta be able to fill in these blanks for them before they go. And it's always the honesty part. Honesty is the most authentic thing you can give anyone. So being able to talk about it from a been there, done that, and this is what I enjoyed, this is what I didn't enjoy, or this is why we cut that, or this is why we do this. That for me is it. That's what we want to give someone. If it resonates with them, terrific. If it doesn't, that's okay. There's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of ways to do things, but this is how we do it, and we want you to know that we know what we're talking about.
Amazing. And again, something we say often, it's like we're not not every one of us is for everybody, right? So, and being okay with that, I
Yep.
think is something major that we need to all find within ourselves, that like you're not going to be for everybody. Everything you do isn't going to be liked by everybody, and that's okay, because there's something out there for everyone. It may not be you or what you offer. Um, and it seems like, so you have like 30 some trips or something in 2025, it looks like, and then like a few also already available for 2026. And all over the world. So anybody out there interested in the Travel Yogi, the link will be in the show notes, and check out what they offer. Some amazing, amazing looking trips: Galapagos, the Arctic, like Iceland, like these things that we've talked about, like that's where they're going. And again, with these amazing teachers who seem to connect with the guests on so many different levels, rather than, hey, they're just teaching yoga for an hour and disappearing. But you can actually just find some true connection with people from the, like on the staff or that you're traveling with. So like I said, check it out for sure. And again, if it's not something that you can do right now, well, look at some other ways you can at least dip your foot back into the traveling world, like I'm doing with short trips, and put it on that
Totally.
list to check off. Whether it's at the end of the list or not, put it on the list, write it down. We're all in our manifestation like era right now. So writing things down and getting specific are what we're doing for 2025. So check these out, get specific with what you want in life. And again, it doesn't have to be this year. It doesn't have to be in 2025, because that time happens fast. So we all know how fast a year can go
Make
by. But
2026 your 2025 goal.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
exactly. But Jen, before we get out of here, is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience? We've covered so much, but whether that's ways to find you or Travel Yogi, or just any little nugget that you have out there that we maybe didn't touch on, feel free to get that out now.
Oh boy, the pressure of a wrap up, dude. I didn't know you were going to do that.
It literally can just be like where to find you. If that's just the Travel
Pressure.
Yogi website, that's fine. And like I said, we covered so much, but if there was anything on the top of your mind that of subject that you're like, wait, I have this thing to say, then that's your time. But you don't need like a formal wrap up.
No, I mean, I know you'll put it out there of where to find us, so I'm not too worried about that. And the travelyogi.com is an easy, whether it's up on the screen or not, we're here for any questions anytime. But I think it's just like a wrap up point, not a new point. It's more of a reiteration. Just do it. Just go. It doesn't, with us, not with us, just go. Just, the benefits, the life changing, the way it will shape the things that you do in the future that you can't even imagine right now. Just do it, and if you need to build up to it and make it a goal. It's fun to have goals, and then you get to check it off your list.
There is such satisfaction
So
with checking things off a list. Absolutely. And I love that. And that is something
mhm.
we stand by for sure. From the podcast, our personal feelings is like, just do it, just do the fucking thing. Like, figure out how to do it. Again, start small. Doesn't have to be the big thing, but taking that first step we know is the hardest. But once you do that, it gets a little bit easier every time, and it can be nuanced, that easierness. But just again, you're never going to know, you're never going to figure out anything if you don't just try. So just always, whatever it is, if it's, even if it has nothing to relate to travel right now, if you're thinking about something that you might want to
do
go
it.
do it. If it's going to that
Do
yoga
it.
class tonight, just go do it.
Definitely do that.
Yeah. All right, Jen, thank you
Karen, thank you
so
so much.
much. Yeah. Everyone out there, check the show notes to find the Travel Yogi and go do the thing. And we'll talk to you next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.